Hi guys, and welcome back to Literacy Kaleidoscope with your host, me, Steph. So, what you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, you showed up after just a couple of days and not like a month. I know, progress. I'm so proud of myself. I'm not, actually. Because there's gonna be format changes because I just need to stop trying to be perfect. Like, perfectionism is one of my idiosyncrasies. So anyways, fuck that we're talking about. We're gonna talk about the book The Husbands by Holly Ghermos. Ghermos? I know it's English. Although the main character's mom does live in Spain. Ghermos. Grazio. This is her debut book, and it's one of my favorite books, although I had to literally hear the audiobook to get the ending. So I will give that. If you have reading comprehensions or disabilities, you should hear the book. Because I have reading comprehension disabilities, which is why I didn't get the ending of the book, which was shocking. But we're not going to talk about the ending. We are going to talk about the ending, but I'm not spoiling the ending. So we follow my worst nightmare in the character Laura, who has just gone to a physics. Well, they call it a hen night in England, where it's all the bride's friends and acquaintances have like their last party before the wedding and yada yada. And so Laura does that. And she comes back to her apartment to find out she has a husband, which is shocking because she's actually single. And through a series of events, she discovers that her attic is magic. And so, yeah, you find out what the attic is and how the attic works? No. And honestly, the attic is a plot point and is a tool for the plot, but it's not a main aspect of the plot. And I'm not going to talk about that because it really isn't the important aspect of the plot, in my opinion. But I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, not a bachelor's degree in English. Someone with an English degree would probably get like more aspects of like the storytelling aspect. I'm just going to tell you what I found as a fascinating exploration of her. As I've stated before, I'm a radical behavioralist. So a lot of what we believe in radical behavioral study, is the idea that we don't really, as human beings, have a free will. A lot of the actions and decisions you make are either influenced by your nature, your temperament nature, and social influences. So this is a really great example in the husband is the fact that a lot of what around her gets changed from the husband she chooses, and a lot of the time, because she's not that person who made those choices, she is left wondering why she made those choices and like what made her think of the color of her kitchen and whatnot, which radically changes every time she meets a husband, which again makes sense. There is a social change in the situation. I'll get to that later. I'm just thinking of something that later on happens. So one of the aspects that I actually do like about her is the fact that she does have a moment where she panics and goes on like, who the heck are you? And tries to control the thing. But the fact of the matter is, you never get the answer of like how the attic works. Why is this happening to her? It's just a thing that's happening to her and she has to learn to live with it, which is very fascinating. Until the ending. Not talking about the ending. But there's this one husband she loves the most, and his name is Carter. I won't give the reasons why, but she really sees that's the most closest husband she got married to, that it's closest to the person she is in the present time. So it makes sense that she's really connected to him. And he goes away in the attic because he wanted to see their wedding photos. And that is the most heartbreaking moment in the book. The fact that she loses him because he was so much in love with her. Like, that's just a tragedy in it itself. And later on, she finds out that there's another person in a similar situation she's in. Although in his situation, he's a man that's going into people's closets or attics and stuff like that. There was a gay joke that one of my clubs made about that. But he's a bi man. And he's super fascinated by the fact that he's getting married to a lot of men because as a queer man, which I can totally understand, because for a lot of queer men, the idea of marriage is like just falling back into society norms and already rebellion by being queer, especially bi men, because they get erased a ton of the time. Bi women don't get, I mean, anyone in the bi spectrum get erased. I understand that feeling as someone on the asexual spectrum. I get erased a lot of the time because, ooh, you're like 1% of the population. So people forget about us, which is strange because people in the bi spectrum are like such a large aspect of it. But what I love about the book is that a lot of the reasons she gets married to some of these guys were just like social factors or just the right time and her being like socially pressured to do something like this. Carter is an American and she was kind of motivated to get married with him in a really fast time so that he wouldn't get deported, which is hilarious. Although there's like 2 times where she meets her ex, I can't remember his name, Amos or something like that. It's a ridiculous name. And the first time she's like, no, just go back up the attic. And the second time she tries to live with him and she discovers that they're going through a really messy divorce and she is so happy and tries to live like a 3-woman's life. And she realizes, no, I can't. I would rather just magically have a new husband with the magic addict than try dating somebody. And that's hilarious. But that also shows like the difference in how that also helped the other person who was like, I don't really like marriage and I never believed in marriage as an institution. And then he gets divorced because his wife is having an affair. So they're going through a divorce process and he lets himself date. And knowing like, hey, I can have a husband and wife and stuff was the pressure society, like, I don't know if it was like a society pressure or just like it like gave himself the courage enough to realize that he is worthy enough for a relationship because he ends up like getting a fiance, which leads to an issue where with her ex, where she tries to get him to go back into the closet. He's like, no, but I'm actually really happy here, which kind of goes into the further when she decides how to stop the magical addict. And as the only chapter in the whole book where you get another person's point of view, which is delightful. But yeah, it's a super interesting series because there's like aspect of she ends up in an abusive relationship at one point or another because everyone is at a vulnerable state if the situations are set up for you that you end up in a really horrible and end up marrying someone who thought was a great person who ends up being a very abusive person. And she ends up having that problem twice. And one time, it's financial power over the other person. And it makes it even harder for her to get rid of her husband that way. That one that's rich. Although I would say the husband who falls down the flights of stairs from the attic and then becomes terrified of heights is kind of the worst test compared to the husband she finds out today she's in a situation where she's a swinger, which again is a great aspect where like what kind of situations does she put herself in to get married to a man who her lifestyles are not the things that she wants, and she ends up in a swinger situation. And she herself says that like I'm probably not a fan of this, but I want to keep him happy. And so that's why I'm in a swinger relationships with my neighbors, which is like horrible for her. Like she likes her neighbor, but she's never liked him in that kind of sense. Like he's been a good friend. And also the relationship with her own sister, who is a lesbian, who is married and has children. Although I do admire that. At one husband, her sister is not married and does not have children. And like the moment she finds that out, she is like, nope, 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 I can't do that. I can't take away my sister's happiness. And she literally gives up that husband, like right up the bat, without even thinking about it. And I love the fact that like the different husbands like change not only just her career, but also like the color of her kitchen, the garden. The garden was the biggest aspect of change, and how the house was made is the big reason that she realized she was actually in a very unhealthy and abusive relationship. And it takes her a really long time from like going like, I'm going to not work, to like letting herself work. And it was really interesting and really fascinating. And I do like the fact that because she needs to like awareness of like how her outside is seen from inside, because she doesn't know herself, her new version of herself. It does end up meaning that she talks to her mom, which is adorably sweet, being the fact that her mom lives in Spain. And so that's cute and adorable. But gosh, I'm just remembering Carter. Carter is the husband she ends up going to the wedding of her best friend. And they are sweet and adorable, and he's the best husband, which is shocking because later on she does find him and a couple of her other husbands, because they're not her husbands, but they were men that she could have married. And so she ends up meeting him in Colorado, trying to convince her of dating, but they're in such a different scenario and situation that he views her like a creep and a stalker, and that's hilarious and amazing. And I'm also glad that the book kind of talks about not just abuse in straight relationships, but also in queer relationships in a really good light. So that's nice. I like that. I also like the fact that like our relationships do it like the showing of that influence, and the jobs and the garden and all that stuff was really well designed. The fact that it does kind of like leave you in this shock, because I like that unnerving feeling, because those were the exact same situations I would dream about, where I would dream that I was married. This was before I realized that I was queer. I should have realized I was queer, but I had nightmares of like getting married to strange men, and the idea of like seeing the men freak me out. Although that does remind me of the Korean or Japanese movie? I think it's Japanese movie Tag, in which female lead is going through different worlds, in which she's a woman being targeted by like these nightmare like scenarios. And in one of them, she ends up marrying, and it's kind of like her being used as a sacrifice and whatnot. But yeah, I like the fact that for certain characters, they did get to explore their more side, and like really did commit to like getting married to a man, which was something they kind of thought of doing, but wasn't really believing in the social construct of marriage, and how like what would happen if they did, like what would happen if they got married, which shockingly means being involved in a lot of affairs, which was hilarious, because there's a lot of times where the Australian man who she connects with, he's like, yeah, I would go outside, and if something was wrong, I would leave, which is what he was trying to do the first time they interact, but because he couldn't close the ladder to go back to the attic, she realized he's in the same boat as me, which their friendship is so adorable and so hilarious, and does make any situation where her husband finds the phone and like, why are you texting this number? Like, you don't even know this number, and just random numbers are showing up talking to you. like they know you so deeply. Yeah. Like, how could she say, like, oh, yeah, that's my best friend from different dimensions? Especially when he's like, and then I try to look that text, it doesn't exist anymore. It's like, yeah, my best friend is going through decisions and then destroying that universe where he made those decisions, like I am with my husband's. Like, that doesn't make sense. Although I do like the way she talks about the husbands, especially because she can't write their names. Like, every time she writes their names and the husband changes the paper, any documentations, any search she does on that just disappears. So it makes it really hard for her to like do research or get people to understand her. But yeah, it's a good book in just how like the choices we think about that are really big are built by little small things that we wouldn't recognize. Those change just how different it is. It's a very interesting butterfly effect kind of book. Although I do like the fact that in the end she finds a way to completely destroy the addict, that way taking that choice away from her, because she's recognized that choice has led her to do self-destructive behavior. I like the fact that she can recognize it as a behavior that she's choosing. It's not a reaction. She's not a person that this choice is not just affecting herself. It's affecting her husband, and it's affecting her sister and her nephews and niece. And so I like the fact that in the end, it's her own decision, her own choice that leads to her ending with a husband she has absolutely no idea and she's kind of fine with. And shockingly, she kind of knows him pretty well, being the fact that what causes the destruction of the attic is the destruction of her own home. And she ends up saving the things that he really values, which is really sweet and adorable. Which is hilarious. So yeah, that's The Husband. I give it I think it was a 4.2, 25 out of 5. The audiobook is 5 out of 5. I don't give audiobooks a bad performance because unless like the voice actors are bad, I give most audiobooks 5 out of 5. It was a delight of read, and it really clarified the ending for me, which I've read the ending, but the ending was just so weird. Like, the last 3 chapters were weird, but the way the audiobook clarified it for me, and so I highly recommend it. I'm going to hopefully be posting every other week, so that way I'm not pushing myself to post weekly, because apparently I'm not good at that. And also you'll be noticing that the title will be less fancy, and that I'm going to be rambling a little bit more often, because if I try to make an outline or something, I'm never going to post a video. So I'm going to be less rigid, more loosey-loosey, and just read the summaries on Goodread and whatnot. So yeah, catch you next time. Bye! Also, if you don't mind, because this is still kind of a newish channel, like, comment, tell me what you think about the book. Would you be willing to read it? Would it be your nightmare? What is the one person that you would just like automatically like send right off back into the attic? I don't know. I'm a sapphic person. And so at that point, it's very strange. But if I were to like, I don't know, have like large boobs or something like that, I'd be like, nope, 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 nope. I already deal with body dysphoria. Like, if my physical body changed so dramatically, I would go, nope, not for me, not for me, dog, not for me. And I would do the same thing at the end. Although that would be really interesting, because I have a lot of disabilities. So marriage is kind of like not might be possible for me, but like waking up, and yeah, it's an interesting thought. And I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Okay. Bye.